So I welcome you, Jordan, to the incomprehensible, the baffling and astonishing world of Uwe Boll.
Did you have a nightmare? My mommy says that there's nothing to be afraid of in the dark.
Your mother's wrong, kid.
My subjects of them! Long live the king! Hip hip huzzah!
Energy's on Kagan.
This is what I've decided to do.
You know how, Jordan, when you think like of video game movies, the first thing you think is that it probably will be bad?
Yeah.
He's the reason for that. He's the reason why you automatically just get that sensation that a video game movie will be bad. Because he makes bad video
exclusively?
game movies.
No one else?
It's pretty much him, yeah. Like if you were to look up bad video game movie in the dictionary, he'd be there in boxing gloves. Ready to box
I feel like
you.
we might get in trouble for saying things of a defamatory nature like that.
I mean, no, it's the absolute. So his movies are truly perplexing. So we're gonna tackle this in parts. I'm going to do my last rapid fire, and then I'm gonna do my first one. We're gonna do these movies individually. So to start off with, we're not gonna summarize them because I can't. They're incomprehensible. And most of them are super boring. I'm just going to talk about them in kind of generalities. And I'm going to try to do it fast. So the first one is Postal.
Jihad!
Two sinister plots.
Today we do God's work.
We will strike a blow against America. I'm gonna go watch Oprah.
We must wipe out the entire planet.
You guys have issues, man.
And he'll use whatever means necessary to bring the bad guys to justice.
I have to destroy a postal truck filled with lethal microbes before a doomsday cult or a terrorist group destroys the entire world.
It is an awful fucking movie. I think I came out and I said to you that it was the worst movie I had ever seen. That's hard to say now because I watched 3 other of his movies and they got progressively worse. But it's horrid. It's one of the most racist things I've ever seen. It's so unbelievably racist. There's horrid fat phobic jokes. Like part of the plot, it's the same plot as Postal 2, which is it's an unknown postal worker who goes nuts and his finds out his wife is cheating on him and goes nuts. And he winds up teaming up with his religious uncle, who is a charismatic uncle, who is in charge of a cult, to steal uranium or something. To steal something, I don't remember what, it doesn't fucking matter, in order to prevent the Taliban from using the same thing to send anthrax or whatever the fuck around the country and take over America. And Osama bin Laden is there, and he has a perfect American accent and is best friends with George W. Bush. And there's a lot of really racist jokes towards Muslims that aren't very funny, but like are said with the cadence and rhythm of a joke. Like there's a lot of moments, and that happens a lot, where characters will say lines that have the cadence and like pattern and rhythm of like a badass line or like a one-liner or like a joke, but like aren't funny.
Paradise. Here it come.
And don't have the format. So it's like da 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 da. You know, like that. You know how like that. You know what I mean?
So like a Duke Nukem joke.
Kind of, yeah, kind of. And so it's like a lot of that where it's like, yeah, it sounds like you think that's a joke, but it's not. Or there's ones in his action movies where it's like da 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 da. Like there's a lot of that in Dungeon Siege. But yeah, just really offensive. You know, there's the joke. There's a bunch of weird like offensive sex scenes with his wife who's overweight, whom he blows up at the end while she's having a 2-dude 3-way with a cop and some other guy, and the entire movie culminates and she gets blown up in like a spray of blood because she's too fat to get out of her trailer.
This sounds like a bad movie,
It's
Justin.
awful. It's awful. And like I can't decide what to bring up this point. I guess now is as good a time as any. There's weirdly famous people in this movie who you go like, why are you in this? You make good stuff. And like all of these movies are all like beyond the point of like people know who he is. The only valuable thing in Postal is Uwe Boll is in the movie, and there's a scene where they say his name, so I now know how to pronounce his name.
I'm here at the theme park Little Germany with owner and controversial director Uwe Boll. Uwe, you made your fortune turning video games into hit movies.
That's the most valuable thing in that movie. Otherwise, it's complete garbage. But it does have sort of that, like, there's a point where like a random celebrity cameo is there. So I don't know if you remember how in Postal 2 Gary Coleman was there, but so in this movie it's Vern Troyer. He's just there, and people there's a mall meet and greet with Vern Troyer instead of Gary Coleman in the movie, and it's really bad. It's a really bad movie, and you're like, oh, okay. Maybe he just doesn't get Postal. But then the guy who created Postal shows up to tell Uwe Boll how much he hates what he's done with Postal.
Well, I'm Vince Desi. What the fuck you do to my game Postal?
I don't know what your fucking problem is. The movie is great.
Oh shit.
Which means he knew what this was and was just okay with it. Very weird. Very strange. Awful movie, upsetting and awful movie. So sorry. I'll finish my. You know what? No, we'll do it at the top of Dungeon Siege. Sorry.
Cruise missiles down there? I just wish I knew how to quit you.
Postal.
Hey, everybody.
That was Postal. So Dungeon Siege. A big thing for me with this is there's a lot of really famous people in these movies, and you're like, what? How? Why are you in this? How are you in this? Why are you in this? Because
you're too good for this.
You're too good for this, and we're already at the point in his career where you know who he is. Like, in terms of Dungeon Siege, he's made Alone in the Dark. He's made Blood Rain. He's made House of the Dead. Like, he's made all of the really bad, like, considered one of the worst movies. You're like, why are you in this? And you're like, well, you said, oh, it's for the paycheck, right? But no, because when you're like, how so someone would have had to taken this to, for example, in the name of the Dungeon Siege movie, it's got Jason Statham, Burt Reynolds is the king, it's got Matthew Lillard, Ray Liotta is there for one day and he's just in a room. Like, literally, he's in one room the entire movie and he never leaves it. So it just kind of comes across that they got him for like a day. And yeah, it's got Jason Statham.
I could believe that.
It's got Ron Perlman is there, and there was one more famous person. But and then Postal J.K. Simmons shows up for some reason.
George W. Bush is a sham. He's an actor. That's not even his real name.
Just randomly in the middle of it.
Yeah, but J.K. Simmons will be in anything.
Yeah, okay, but you're like, okay, you're like, okay, maybe it's for the paycheck, but like these people like flew out, did like costume fittings, choreography, did action sequences. Like Matthew Lillard is like they made this in BC. Like a lot of his movies were shot in BC. Almost the entirety of like a lot of his movies were shot in BC. It's incredible.
I mean, some famous actor whose name I can't remember at this moment in time, but I know was said by someone, has once said that nobody ever thinks that the movie they're going to be in is going to be bad. Right, you go into this under the assumption that it's going to be a good movie, and then months after it comes out, when someone else tells you that the movie that you were in was bad, because let's be honest, you're way too famous to sit down and watch your own movie. Then you're like, Oh, I guess it was a bad movie. Oh well, I'm laughing all the way to the bank with my paycheck.
But that's the thing that's so where I get to astonishing is that like you're like, okay, these movies don't make money. They all bombed horribly, so they're not really making a lot of money on like residuals or anything. So like, and like they're all putting in horrid performances, and you're like, oh, wow, you've all been in good stuff. Like you've all been in, like at this point, like every one of these actors has made good stuff. And we've sort of lost the thread of are these good representations of the games? I didn't ask you. Warcraft, yes, it is. It is a good representation of it. I don't remember if we asked it for your last one. These are not. These are not.
Wreck-It Ralph isn't a game, so I can't say. Well, I mean, it is. We played the arcade game, so yes, it is.
Yes, it is. We'll say yes. These are not. These are not.
And the other one. What was my last one? Sonic. Sonic
is, I would say, aesthetically anyway.
Yeah, I would say it is. I would say it is on on the adventure games.
So for Postal, it is a reasonable representation of the chaos that is the Postal 2 game that I played. Like I haven't played all of them, so I can't speak to all of them. This isn't, but I don't know if that's in this case his fault. Mostly just because Dungeon Siege is a real blank slate of a game, where it's really about what you put into it. Is it an accurate adaptation? I don't know. I don't remember who's the final boss of that game. I don't remember who the bad guys are. I don't know who you fight in that game. But I sure as shit remember the adventures I had with my friends. Like I remember playing that.
That game is very much it's not about the destination. It's about the friends we made along the way.
And the stuff I like about that game is it's mechanical. Like I love how you can pick up any weapon and build your stat build in any direction you want just by picking up a weapon. You can be like, oh, do I want to be good at swords? Let's pick up a sword and start swinging a sword. Or you want to be a magic guy? Pick up a spell, start shooting spells. Like I love the flexibility, and that going back to World of Warcraft is what led us into our love of World of Warcraft. That's why we love World of Warcraft. We love that flexibility. That's what I remember. The only thing I really remember because from the thing I remember sticking out as being accurate was how the bridge was knocked out, because in the game, the bridge was knocked out. But other than that, it's just they're really bad performances. Ray Liotta is really hammy.
Your father hates me because I will not bow and scrape before the Almighty King and his magus, because I will take from him what I please, even his daughter's virtue.
The only one who gives any form of a shit is Matthew Lillard. He's having a great time.
Alan, you're very, very naughty. You make my bosom jiggle. Your mommy. Where are you going? Oh.
My nephew amuses himself with the king's throne.
His movies fail not just on like they're the movies that make me go, yeah, I know what filmmaking is, and man, this is bush league amateur shit. Like the action sequences are like visually incomprehensible. Like man, you can't see what the like they're called Krugs, I think, but you can't see what they look like because either the camera won't stop shaking, or it's blurry, or it's at night, or it's raining, or it's muddy. You can't see shit. You can't see anything. So like, it's boring. It's not fun to watch. And then the dialogue is no one gives. There's no enthusiasm, no interest, no investment, and it's dull. And like he thinks his audience is stupid. So every one of his movies, there's just long sequences of characters just explaining everything to you. It's like everything. We're gonna get to Alone in the Dark. Don't even worry about it. But just explaining. Just
I wasn't
everything, and it was bad. I remember being complimentary to it the first time, but it was like, it is a truly remarkably terrible movie that he was allowed to make, and that he didn't lose any money on for reasons we'll get to later.
Tomb Raider.
Seen in our continuing saga that is the wacky world of Uwe Boll is Alone in the Dark, widely considered to be one of the worst movies of all time. and just very. It was. Remember how I think I was telling. It took me 2 days to watch it because the first day it's so boring. It's so boring. The action is boring. The action is dull. The cinematography is dull. Like it's boringly shot. The dialogue is bad. Christian Slater is in it, and you're like, Christian Slater, why are you in this? This is another one where I'm like, you've made good movies. Why did you agree to this? Like why did you? I don't. And yeah, the plot doesn't make any sense. It's about it's one of those. There's a tribe of Indians who were advanced society, and they were trying to fight an evil lizard people who are coming from another dimension. And certain human. Remember how I said there are sometimes there's zombies and sometimes they're alien creatures? I struggled to pay attention to it because I couldn't. I kept checking out, and I'm like, I need to watch this, and I just couldn't. But the zombies that I saw were actually people who made a deal with the lizard people to be the lizard things like servants, so they would live, and then return the lizard things gave them superpowers, and that's why. And as for if it's a representation of the game, as near as I can tell, it's a loose adaptation of the fourth game. But otherwise, no. The only thing that's consistent is the character that Christian Slater plays is the main character of the game. And from what I can tell, it's basically a survival horror game. So kind of like OG Resident Evil style game. I'm familiar with it. I've never played it, but I am familiar with it. Apparently, it's funny. I saw a video today. There's apparently a remake that's just come out. That's a remake of the first game. That's apparently quite good. But yeah, just a lot. It's a lot of the same shit. It's just Butch League and amateur, just bad. It's a movie that makes me go, yeah. It's the kind of movie that makes me go, yeah. I recognize what bad movies are. This is a bad movie. This is a badly made movie. I think I don't know. There feel like there's other famous actors in there other than Christian Slater, but that's not even the most baffling one, which we're gonna get to next. One is a movie called Blood Rain, which is based off of a game called Blood Rain, which is a 3D PlayStation 2 or 1, I think maybe era hack and slash, kind of think Bayonetta, but with she's a vampire. That's the premise of this, and it's gonna be a lot of the same bullet points as before. Ben Kingsley is in this movie, Jordan.
Keegan!
Ben Kingsley, Oscar award-winning Ben Kingsley, flew out to Romania on the dime of a relatively unknown German director who self-funded these movies, Jordan, using a German tax break. We're not going to get into that. We don't have time. He somehow convinced Oscar award-winning actor Ben Kingsley to be in this movie, and he's fucking terrible. He won an Oscar. You're like, what are you doing here, Ben Kingsley? And this is the one where one of the actors was, if you hear any trivia anecdote about Uwe Boll, is that this is the one where Michael Madsen, who I don't know what you know him from, but you would know him if you saw him. He showed up so drunk that they had to ADR over his lines because he was so incomprehensible. Wow. And they ADR'd over him with a different guy. It's got Michelle Rodriguez in it, and she's doing a British accent for some reason. There's a very bizarre and out-of-nowhere sex scene for no reason. It's weird and violent. Oh, that's another thing with with Alone in the Dark. It's weird and violent. It's super graphically violent for no reason, and not in a way that's fun or entertaining. They're just bad movies. They're bad movies that just and just really to wrap up. Okay, what's incredible about Uwe Boll is he eventually moved on and became an award-winning restaurateur, and he opened up several. He opened up several restaurants. Let's stay on point. He opened up several restaurants that all won a ton of awards, and he was highly successful as a restaurant owner. So, if you're ever I'm not good at this thing, just know that there's something else out there for you. You should quit. You should quit right now. Stop doing the thing you're bad at, and do the thing that you're actually good at. And there is something that you are actually good at. In this case, it was running award-winning restaurants.
Thank you. That touches me right there.
You could become
I'll
like
go.
Uwe Boll.
I'll go quit my job and become an award-winning podcast host.
Also, you could just threaten to box every single one of your critics like he did. I'm really hoping that I can find footage of that I can edit it into this when I eventually make this into a YouTube video. I'm really hoping. But yeah, man, just awful. Another one of those, like, man, it felt like we're like Alone in the Dark. I tried, but it was the dialogue is so boring. It's so boring. There's no enthusiasm. It's not interesting. The action's not fun to watch. So like your attention just wanes, and it's so forgettable. And it's just it's like the writing is so awful and basic and terrible that you can't remember it well enough to summarize it. So I couldn't tell you a fucking thing that happened in these movies that I just watched. I can't. I don't remember because I struggled to either stay awake through them or pay attention to them. It was awful. I had a bad time. Video game movies are sometimes bad, you guys. They're mostly bad. Most of the it was either this or the Assassin's Creed movie, which I'm pretty sure I've only seen half of.
Did they hurt you, Justin?
They hurt me. They hurt me a lot. I'm upset.
Did they hurt you in here?
They hurt me in here.